Okay, I'm going to start the buttermilk brine for fried chicken. And I'm using a gourmet buttermilk. It's whole milk, as you can see over here. And basically, I poured that 1.5 cups into here, and I'm going to pour it in the bowl. It is nice and thick. Now, one of the reasons you do this, a lot of people just do buttermilk, but salt, which is a brine, adds quite a bit of flavor. So, since I do have 1.5 cups, I am going to use 1 teaspoon for a cup and 1/2 teaspoon for the 1/2 cup. Now, very important, it sinks to the bottom is you'll want to whisk it for a good little bit until all the salt dissolves in the buttermilk. That way you know you got a good brine. Now, this brine can go for at least, at the smallest part, an hour, but I am going to brine this overnight, and then I'm going to show you everything I do to cook the chicken tomorrow. So, this is a whole chicken. It's just about 4 pounds, a little over. And I'm going to show you how I cut it up, and then we're going to put it in the brine. Now, I've never cut up a chicken before on video. Now, I do have 2 poultry shears, which are usually fantastic. So the first thing I want to do is, you can see the neck here, and that's the backbone. So this is the back of the chicken. That's the front with the breasts. So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to cut the spine out. So I'm going off center, right at the spine. And you can see the tail, that would be the end of the spine right there. Then I'm going to go ahead. Now you can see this cuts through bone and skin quite easily. That is a great piece to make some stock with. I'll put it aside for later. Now, we got this here. Now, if I go this way, and I actually pull out and press down, I'll actually crack some other bones, which actually is the middle rib bone. Now, this is actually called spatchcocking. This is a fantastic way to cook a whole chicken on a grill. You put that in there, oh, it's just great. So now, what I gotta do is separate the legs, the thighs, and then I'm gonna cut the breasts in 2. The wings also will be used for stock, so I am not using them. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut them off, put them aside for broth. Okay, so now I will go directly down the center. Oops, my knife locked up on me. And truthfully, I really should be doing this from behind. But you can do it from behind as long as you got a good set of poultry shears. Now, these are Henkel's, made in Germany. They are kind of newer. This is an older pair of Henkel's. Definitely more sturdy than these, but these are kind of easier to handle. They're a lot lighter, too. So now we got this skin and this breast. For fried chicken, we want to keep most of the skin. That's the one thing poultry shears are not the greatest at cutting skin. However, if with a little patience and a little pulling, you will be able to cut the skin. And the knives, the bones, it'll go through 1, 2, 3. So there's a breast, a thigh, and a leg. Now for the breast, I am actually going to cut it in half. And that's right, because the whole piece is too big compared to the legs and the thighs. Keep a little bit of skin on it. So this way they will actually cook a little bit more even. Now, for here, as you can see that in the thigh, is you want to go in right by the joint, which would actually be the elbow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And always the skin with these. Sometimes you want to put a sharp knife aside, but oops, still got some attachment here. Well, it's actually there. Just cut it through, keep that skin on. Skin on, there's a thigh. So now I'm going to do this other half a chicken, and then I'm gonna put it in the marinade. And I'll show you that in 1 second. Now I have all the chicken cut up. So we got 2, 4, 6, 7 pieces because I did not separate this one yet. So again, I will go at the joint. And again, this is an 8-piece chicken. So at the elbow, and then crunch. Any extra skin, I just kind of use that as a razor blade. And now we got 8 pieces. So now it's very simple. We'll go take a Ziploc bag and we're going to place all the pieces inside it with the skin. We got attachment. Just pull it apart. Now some of the skin when you're doing your own chicken like this might be a little bit flimsy. Put that aside. However, don't worry about it because you can always, before you bread it, put the skin right back on again, covering it. So one little extra stir. This is that whole milk buttermilk with a 1.5 tablespoons of salt. Again, this was a 1.5 cups. So now I'm going to put that all in. Nice to have gloves. Use that as my spatula. Put that aside. So now I am going to seal this up almost except for that one end, and then I'm going to try to get all the air, or as much as the air out, can't get it all out, as I possibly can. So I'll squeeze it down. Ooh, it's kind of a little bit out there. That's kind of good. Of course, you can open it and close it as you want, but the more air you take out, the better off you will be for the marinade covering all of the chicken. So the less air, which means there's just marinating chicken, no air pockets. Not a huge deal because you'll always have a little bit. But now, here you go. You got that. Now I'm going to throw that in the fridge. First thing I'm going to do is get myself a bowl. And that's just in case there's any holes in that bag from the sharp bones. That doesn't look like there is, but you never know. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in a bowl and now in the refrigerator. Now I'm going to do this overnight, but you can do it for an hour at least. 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. You can do it in the morning, cook in the afternoon. But I am going to wait till tomorrow afternoon. So this is going to be in for a good 15 hours. So that is enzymes in the buttermilk is going to soften it. The brining is going to give it flavor, keep it juicy for when it's frying in that hot oil. Just to show you, there's the wings and the backbone, which is all that bone and cartilage. It makes a fantastic stock. Just barely put the water over it and save it for later for another meal. So now we're going to make the coating for the chicken. Now I got 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of baking powder. That is about a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, that's freshly ground. I got 3/4 teaspoon of thyme and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And I got 6 tablespoons of buttermilk. And buttermilk I used to marinate the chicken. Now, I'm only using a small bit of garlic because garlic turns everything kind of brown. And I'm taking the thyme and I'm kind of crushing it with my fingers, which releases the aromatics. Now, a lot of times too, you can add a little oil for the thyme and cook it in there, and that'll actually make it a little bit more fragrant. But for fried chicken, it's not needed. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 3 cups of flour. I'm going to put the thyme, the baking powder, the pepper, which you'd never heat up in oil because you'll actually lose the bite to it and it just becomes kind of like sand. And then the garlic. Now I got that all in there, and I am just going to mix it around. Get it good in there. Use a whisk. Okay. Now that bacon powder will add for the crunchiness of the chicken, because this is extra crispy fried chicken. And I use an all-purpose flour. Don't use the sometimes dolphin flour. You have to use the all-purpose. Now the buttermilk. Now once I put the buttermilk in, I don't want to use the whisk because everything will just coagulate with it and kind of get stuck. I want to do this by hand. Now if I do it by hand, I'm going to stick gloves on. Because I don't like to get the stuff all over my hands because I have to touch other stuff and of course it'll be coated. So I got my gloves on. Now I'm going to keep going through here. And as you can see, it's starting to clump up. And it'll kind of get a little bit sandy, which I'm hoping. But that buttermilk actually adds little tiny clumps in the flour. So instead of having that smooth flour and smooth everywhere else, you'll actually see, once I'm kind of done here, that the flour will actually be larger pieces. And that larger pieces just means more stuff to fry, more crispiness, and you will love it. And as you can see there, a little bit more pushed up, not flourily, very fine, but it actually has a little bit of texture in it. And that's what we're going to put the buttermilk chicken in. Okay, there's my buttermilk chicken that I actually had done yesterday. It's been marinated for about 10 hours. Maybe a little bit more. Of course, you can do it just for 1 hour if you want. That would be okay, but the longer you take, throw that away. The longer you marinate it, the better off it is. So now, this is one of the half breasts. I'm going to stick it in. There it is. And you can see that skin kind of come off, but you can kind of put it right back on. Put that in face down, 2 pieces at a time. I'm going to put that in. As you can see, there's the flaky parts. That's what makes a crispy chicken. So I am just going to go ahead and coat it. Do a little bit of a press. Make sure I get it good. Go ahead and take off any excess, little shake, and I'm going to put it on a wire rack, so there's anything left over. I'm not sitting back and I'm not moisturizing, rather than putting it straight on the aluminum foil. Now, 2 drums, put that in, flip them around, a little bit of a press. Make sure it adheres. Boom. And I'm going to go ahead and put everything up. As you can see, I'm kind of putting everything up here, skin side up. Because when I fry it, which I'm going to start at 375, I'm going to put skin side down. So this way I know, straight on down. So I'm going to continue to go ahead and bread these up, and this is just an absolutely perfect amount. Put it in there, and I'm sure you can see the chicken there with little clumps in it, and that was because I added the buttermilk to it. There we go, is another one. And look at that, look at those clumps. Those are going to fry up kind of like Kentucky Fried Chicken. Popeyes, Church's, and that's what gives the extra crunch. Okay, skin side down. This one, the skin is small, but easily enough, you just cover it over. Of course, not as easy as I say it is, huh? There we go. Nice skin side down. Get that in. Oh, this this is perfect. You can hear the ding, ding, ding. Of course, my pot was hitting the chicken thing, which I'm moving with my belly. But look at that. Oh, this is going to be extra crispy. You can see the difference in the flour. Didn't take much buttermilk, 6 tablespoons. But you got that little bit of extra squares on it. That's a little bit too much there. But of course, you shake it off and put it down. Now, as you can see my hands like this, you can see why I wear gloves. So I'm going to take these gloves off. Put them nice, grab them by the ankle, and I'm going to get the oil up to temperature, and you're going to see me fry some. So now, the oil is about 375. I had it on 6, and I'm using peanut oil. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put 4 pieces of the chicken in. So I am going to start with that one piece, a leg, a thigh, and that was a breast, which, if you noticed earlier, I cut in half. Now I'm going to add another breast. So now, it's bubbling over. You can see it's almost covering it. But now I'm going to put a lid on it. And I'm going to time it for about, actually I'm going to first do 4 minutes, because then I'm going to check it to make sure it's browning evenly. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, it's been almost 4 minutes. Timer is off. Or went off. Now you're wondering, why am I covering it? Well, first of all, the oil is not, this is not deep fried. I'm just looking at the bottom to make sure that all the pieces are frying evenly, and they are. And it's usually 8 to 10 minutes. Now, while covering it actually helps. I'll only do it on the first one before I turn it, which will be 8 minutes. So I'm going to do 4 more minutes now. And of course, yeah, that's 30 seconds or so of looking at the bottom, make sure they were frying evenly. If they weren't, sorry, I would move them around. But they all seem to be frying pretty good and pretty evenly. So now I've got another 4 minutes. I am going to take the lid off, and then I'm going to flip the chicken, but I'm not going to put the lid on because the lid will cause steam and cause the top of the chicken to be soggy. And this is extra crispy. Most people think the lid, oh, it's going to be soggy. No, it's not. Because right now, that is frying in deep oil. That'll be crispy. And then when I flip them over, that'll be crunchy. But I'm not putting the lid back on for the second time. Okay, now I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to throw it in this sink. Beep, beep, beep. My timer went off. So that's been 8 minutes. Oh, look how crispy brown that is. Look at that. Looks great, not burnt. Again, if you use too much garlic in the mixture, it'll turn dark, turn bitter. So now I'm going to put that in here, and I'm going to set the timer for 6 minutes. And then I'm going to do the second batch. But I will see you before the second batch when I remove that and put it on. As you can see over here, I have it grated. I actually have it sprayed with some Pam, so it won't stick, and I have the oven set to 200 degrees, as you can see right there. So now I don't put the lid back on because I don't want the top to be soggy, because putting the lid on will cause steam and cause it to be soggy. Now the top is going to dry out, the bottom is going to fry up, and in 6 minutes it'll be done. Okay, now just about done. You can see 315, 316, which is kind of like the perfect temperature for the second frying. If it's any higher than that, it's going to burn. And it'll be probably darker on the bottom. And it is. But that is absolutely, that's not burnt. That is absolutely perfect fried chicken. So I am going to take these pieces out. You can see how fluffed up they are. There's the bottom of that one. Golden brown, as golden as can be. and I'm putting it on a wire rack. Now the reason, there's the bottom of that one, and then you can see the top of that one. Nice. Now, I'm going to pan over, and you can see the chicken there. And I have the oven at 200 degrees, which I'm probably going to end up putting in, but I'm not going to put it until after 5 minutes. Let some of the oil soak out. Now, that 315, you don't want to go 350 through the whole thing, or 375. It's like deep fat fryers, because the chicken will get burnt. And if I use a lot more garlic, that'll be a lot darker. So you don't want to use a lot of garlic, you just want that little slight garlic flavor on it. Now this will have to get back up to temperature. Currently, let's take a look. Give it a little stir with the thermometer. Then I'm going to use my handy dandy, 350, 360. So I want that to get up to 375. So it's going to heat up a little bit while, and then I'm going to do the second batch of chicken. And after that, I will see you later. Okay, been 6 minutes. Beautiful. Oh, sorry, it's been 8 minutes. It's 6 minutes this turn. And as you can see here, well, boom. No top. Another 6 minutes. Now the other one was actually 8 minutes. Now no top, because I don't want to steam the top. Now, this is almost done. This is the second 6 minutes. Now, it's going to be funny when you see the difference between the other chicken. Now there's the timer. You'll notice that the second batch is actually a little bit lighter. Now, no skin there, so you can see it kind of got darkened, but that's absolutely cool. Oh, look at all that. That's the drumstick, as you can see the bone. So now, as I pan over, I think you can see everything anyway, but the first chicken was a little bit darker, and this chicken's a little bit lighter. What does that tell me? You know what that tells me? Is that oil on the first fry is never as good as the second fry. So, what I do suggest, and Cooks Illustrated or Cooks.com actually recommends, that fresh oil is not the greatest for first frying. But if you use a cup of used oil along with 4 to 5 cups of fresh oil, you will get a better fry technique. It won't heat up as much. It'll be more golden brown. And that is because of the second fry. Even though they were fried at the same time, that's darker, that was the first one. This is the second one. So if you use actually a cup or more of the used fry oil, you will actually get better results and better cooking, because fresh oil is never the way to go. Now this is peanut oil, it's expensive. You can use vegetable oil, but it all applies to all the same oils. So now I'm going to throw this in the oven. That's 200 degrees. I'm not sure you can see it. I can see my finger there. I'm going to keep it hot. I'm going to wait for my wife to come home, and we're going to have some fried chicken. Okay, one more thing. As you're all wondering, this is actually low fat. That's right. The more of this chicken you eat, the lower your fat hangs. Not a joke. Love it. Bye.